Raise your hand if you have ever felt embarrassed. Good. I'm not the only one. I do a lot to avoid embarrassment, like trying to find people who relate to me. Sometimes I even lie. You know, you pass gas and you blame it on the dog or the squeaking chair. You're late because you slept through your alarm, but it was totally traffic to blame. Actually, in a national poll, 72% of women and 56% of men admitted to thinking that lying to avoid an embarrassing moment was okay. It has almost become normalized. I know a lot of my friends lie to get out of embarrassment. I would say 18 is a pretty awkward age. You're still figuring out where your life is going, where you'll be for the next few years. So it somewhat surprised me to see that the same national poll revealed 16 as the most embarrassing age, but told me that 28% of adults still feel like they are in an awkward stage. Humans have many methods to bypass embarrassment. Lying is just one of them. I know there's a lot, so I'll just name a few statistics for you that you may be able to relate to. During the feeling of embarrassment, 33% of us apologize, 22% crack a joke, 21% pretend it didn't happen, 6% leave the room, and some, very few, make a speech about it. Most of my embarrassment comes from being in public situations, more specifically, in a group of people I know. Many stories come to mind that follow these guidelines, but one in particular really stands out. It was a dark night, and I was in Vermont at my small sleepaway camp tucked away in a little valley. At this camp, we would have evening activities, which could be anything from a movie with princess and princesses to a dance where we could pretend to be the royalty we had seen the night before. My cabin rested all the way at the tip of the valley, so as I would make the journey to my cabin, I would walk my friends to theirs, dropping them off one by one. Though this night had the same routine, it was different. It was special. Beside me walking was my crush, Aiden. As we got to about the halfway mark between his evening activity and his cabin, he noticed I was cold, and as nice as he was, he offered me his hoodie. Of course, with butterflies in my stomach, I let out a maybe too enthusiastic yes and put it on. What I didn't realize was that this hoodie would be my doom. I started zipping it up and up and up. It passed my torso, my chest, my neck, all the way to the top of my head to trap me in a horribly embarrassing situation. Stuck in his blue, red, and black Spider-Man zip-up hoodie. I could barely see, which made it even more embarrassing as I was stumbling, trying to find my footing. Unable to see his face, I could only imagine an expression of utter disgust. I felt like a fool. At first, I pretended I wasn't stuck. I just continued walking until I saw the light of his cabin. And finally, the moment came. It was time to give it up. At the front steps of his cabin, I pulled the zipper, tugged at it, and it wouldn't budge. Aiden tried with all his might, but I was trapped, and in my head, there was no way to get out. Of course, 10-year-old me wouldn't think of the obvious solution, which was to pull the hoodie over my head. Of course, the only solution I could think of was to get the hoodie unstuck. Finally, we beckoned a counselor, and through sheer will, he got the zipper unstuck, and I was finally free. Free from the hoodie, but stuck in embarrassment. I apologized profusely, and in an attempt to never talk to my crush again, I walked away as fast as I could into the night. Humans get embarrassed. It's just a fact. But why do we? Let's start with the definition. According to Oxford Dictionary, the definition of embarrassment is a feeling of self-consciousness or shame. In other words, one could say that embarrassment is just others' perception of others' opinions. In other words, embarrassment is just the fear of social rejection. If you don't believe me, think of it yourself. When you are embarrassed, why are you? I am here to prove to you that embarrassment is all in your head, but manageable. One of the main ways I manage embarrassment is through the phrase, "It is what it is." Fall on my face, it is what it is. Walk into the wrong meeting room, it is what it is. My generation primarily knows the phrase, "it is what it is," through Vine, the famous social media platform. But what many don't know is that the phrase was first referenced in a public widespread manner long before that. "It is what it is" was first recorded about how to deal with adversity in a column written by J.E. Lawrence about the harsh Midwest in 1949. So how did this phrase infiltrate the world's vocabulary bank? I mean, everybody uses it. Your Olympians, your teachers, your principals, your friends. It seems to be a way to move past every moment. U.S. hockey coach, worried about his players before the States. "It is what it is." Former First Lady Michelle Obama even uses it in her interviews. It's used to bypass embarrassment, excuse a moment, and like a broken record, it is repeated and repeated, never ending, to make one feel better. I like to call it a Band-Aid phrase because it's used to heal emotional wounds. Why we feel so bad and need a Band-Aid phrase, one that is both protective and healing, can be discovered down at a psychological level. All the time, phrases like, "it was a slap to my face," "I felt crushed," "they broke my heart," are used to describe emotional feelings using physical descriptions. A social psychologist named Naomi Eisenberger and her team are pioneers in discovering why this may be. In 2003, Eisenberger and her team entered into several experiments to discover the connection between physical and emotional pain. The subjects were told to put a virtual reality headset on. When they put this headset on, they saw their hands, a ball, and 2 animated images. Then they were simply told to play a game of catch. What the subject did not know was that the 2 animated images were not other people in the virtual reality, but a computer. At first, the game went as usual. They all passed to each other. But then eventually, the 2 animated images stopped passing to the subject and only passed to each other. Through fMRI scans, the researchers were able to see that this type of social rejection the subjects were experiencing triggered the same neural pathways as if they were experiencing physical pain. This could mean that experiencing social rejection could be as painful as breaking a bone. While some subjects did have this result, others did not have as much activity in their neural pathways. When one of these subjects were asked what they felt when they were experiencing this type of social rejection, the subject just simply said they did not care. Their lives were not threat, neither were their jobs, so because of this, their brain didn't react in the same way as others who did feel more pain when faced with the same type of social rejection. This study shows that humans do have the capacity to override our embarrassment, pain, and heartbreak, all with the power of our minds. Embarrassment is really just the fear of social rejection, and that is all in our heads. If you don't believe me through that psychological study, I have 2 other psychological theories for you. The first is the spotlight effect. We are all familiar with thinking that the world revolves around us in some way, shape, or form. This occurrence attests to the spotlight effect when we overestimate and evaluate others, noticing and evaluating our appearance, performance, and blunders. We assume that the spotlight is always on us when, I know, this will be hard to hear, it's not. The second is the theory of perfectionism. If we're all being honest, we have all had times where we want to do something with no mistakes or flaws, to get that perfect score on that test, or to wear that perfect outfit for each occasion. So when things don't go as perfectly as planned, we have a stronger negative emotional reaction when we need not to have a perfectionist mentality, but an "it is what it is" mentality. This is all just to say that embarrassment doesn't have to be so present and daunting in our lives. I challenge each of you to take a small step each day to not letting embarrassment stop you from doing what you want to do. I know this is easier said than done, so that's why I present you with 3 accessible ways to minimize or move past embarrassment. Number 1, embrace the zipper. Number 2, acknowledge that the spotlight isn't always on you. And number 3, say it with me. When you spill food on yourself during a date, it is what it is. When you wave to someone and they don't wave back, it is what it is. when you trip over your words during your speech?
It is what it is.
Thank you.